There is a difference between completely neglecting yourself for your family and rejecting all of that and only focusing on your life dreams. Life should not be lived at both extremes. We need to find a healthy middle road. Hello lovely feminine women, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here and for watching this video. If you are new, please hit that red subscribe button down below and join our feminine community where we also like to talk about homemaking. My name is Cynthia, I'm a millennial housewife and I'm also a former Miss Earth Canada. You can find more about me by following me on all my social media handles or going to the About section of my YouTube channel. Before we get into today's topic, I wanted to point out my lovely t-shirt that was gifted to me by my friend Chelsea at Humble Homemaking. If you've been a long-time subscriber on the channel, you know that she also has a YouTube channel, because I've mentioned it a few times, where she makes videos on homemaking as well. She also has a shop where she makes graphic tees like this, all kinds of other apparel, and she also makes soaps and beauty products. I have been sent 2 shirts by her, and I'm going to explain them as we progress through the video because they tie in perfectly with some of the subcategories of what we're going to discuss. She has kindly sent us a discount code, and who doesn't like a good deal? I do, of course, you know, I'm like all about the deals and etc. So go down below to the description box and you can click on the link and go check out her store as well as her YouTube channel, and you can copy paste the discount code and maybe check out a few items. So today we're going to talk about how the modern woman can live a more traditional lifestyle, because the truth is that basically all of us, unless you were living in a secluded community, are all modern women, really. And many of us don't have the luxury, or many of us do not want to become full-time homemakers, but we do feel attracted to the traditional lifestyle. We want to embody more traditional principles. In this video, I want to make clear that when I talk about traditional values and being a traditional woman, I am talking about a certain number of core principles by which you can lead your life. I'm going to share with you some of the ways that I did it, and I'm going to share with you a few more suggestions. I also made a video several months ago about how I became a more traditional woman, and I'll also link that down below. A few of the things I'm going to talk about today are going to be a repetition of those things, but this video has more in mind you as the viewer rather than I as the person who has had a lived experience becoming a more traditional woman. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. So without further ado, let's get into the first way in which you as a modern woman can become more traditional, and that is by applying the principles of femininity. I got in a little bit of a tiffy in an elegant way with somebody on TikTok a few months ago, which caused for me to actually realize that many people do believe that we still live in a femininity-oriented society just because we have people on the internet who over-sexualize themselves with makeup as well as clothing. You have to understand that even though those people are presenting themselves physically to the world as feminine women, this does not necessarily mean that they are the embodiment of what it means to be a feminine woman. This is why I've tried to make it clear over the past few weeks that I'm trying to incorporate more elements of deeper femininity, and by that I mean kind of like character traits, the way in which you project your energy to the world, the principles by which you lead your life, your energy when you interact with other people, as well as the way in which you think about treating those you come in contact with. This kind of ties into my video about fake femininity, so if you haven't yet watched that video, I recommend that you do. I'm going to link it down below. As modern women, we grow up being continuously told that men are our competition. We have to break these glass ceilings and we have to outperform men. But the thing is that when you actually live in your femininity to its full extent, you understand that you are not competing with men. You are complementary to men and you find so much more fulfillment. Therefore, I really think that it is worthwhile for the modern woman to explore those more profound elements of femininity. A physical representation through your clothing and through your makeup and hair is an excellent way for you to feel confident in showing up as a feminine woman, but this will not lead you to everlasting femininity. Now, I want to actually read to you this shirt that Chelsea sent me, this first shirt, which is "Femininity is the New Counterculture," which really plays into what I'm telling you right now, that if you want to live like a traditional woman in a modern era, you want to actually infuse more femininity femininity in your life. There are so many new content creators that are popping up every day talking about femininity, and I think that is so positive. And I really think that if you're looking to get the full femininity experience, you can't just limit yourself to one person talking about femininity. That's like writing an essay but only using one source. Of course, you're going to get a D. If we really want to make femininity kind of like this trend that is emerging and it becomes more of like a normalized part of our society again, we need to support all feminine women. We need to all be in this together. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is modesty. And I'm going to be very candid with you. When I scroll through TikTok, for example, and I go on a certain girl's profile and then I see she's under the age of 20, but she's kind of like dancing and showing herself very provocatively, you kind of have to wonder what the purpose of doing that is for. I know I have gotten criticism because I still keep my pageant photos up, those photos where I am wearing a swimsuit, and we might agree to disagree, but I think that there is a big difference between wearing certain items of clothing for a purpose, such as a sport or a dance performance, and wearing certain articles of clothing to attract attention. You shouldn't live your life where you are doing things to attract attention from other people. You want to actually present yourself in the world as a reflection of your values and who you are. I think that many people get overwhelmed with modesty because they think that they need to be like some sort of rigid image of what they think a historically traditional modest woman is. And if that is your personal style and you actually want to dress that way, I 100% support you. But if you are more like me, more on the like modern traditional side of things, I just want you to see modesty as a form of balance. Would I go to the beach and take that same picture as I did in my pageant days because I'm at the beach? No, because there's no purpose in me taking a picture like that at the beach other than me trying to attract attention when I post it on Instagram. You want to select clothing items that allow for you to do the activity in which you are engaging in, and you also want to evaluate what your why is for purchasing that. The next little point I want to discuss is fun, because many people are living in the like live fast to die young lifestyle where their version of fun encompasses getting wasted and doing a bunch of like risky activity. If you want to live a more traditional lifestyle, what you have to do is reevaluate the way in which you have fun. Again, this isn't adhering to like a rigid image of a boring person, but it should not be the center of your life at all. It should be reserved for special occasions. Personally, a more traditional approach would be a live slow and die old lifestyle. Therefore, there are so many traditional ways where you can have fun. You can go outside in nature, you can invite people over and host dinners, you can play games, you can also go to events once the world opens up. I just want you to kind of reevaluate the way in which you spend your time, because I do find that a lot of people, especially in the millennial generation and the older Gen Zs, wake up in their later 20s and they realize that they don't necessarily have hobbies or things that they do for fun that they would be comfortable in telling other people. And a lot of that is rooted in the issue that we grew up thinking that fun consisted of partying. Next up, we have to talk about homemaking. Homemaking is a extremely traditional practice. Ever since people had huts that they were living out of, homemaking was a thing. I always try to make a distinction between housewife and a homemaker. A housewife is an occupation. A homemaker can be used synonymously with housewife in that it also means occupation, but it can also include all of those women who might also have careers but enjoy the practice of homemaking. Homemaking deals more with elements of the heart. Being a homemaker in a traditional sense means that you have a home-centered life. Your life surrounds the home. In modern society, homemaking, the practice of keeping house, is very frowned upon because it is seen as a burden and something that must be always outsourced. Now, of course, your life as a homemaker is not exactly the same as your housekeeping practices in homemaking. But if you want to live a more traditional lifestyle and you want to get the most out of homemaking, you have to reorient the way in which you think about it. You can't think about it like people think about it nowadays, where it's just a series of chores that you need to check off a list. Of course, you want to be disciplined and you want to have lists and systems, and those are all great things, but you have to also evaluate your, my cat is right there. your ultimate purpose in being a steward of your home. Yes, maybe living a home-centered life is going to cause for you not to be the big CEO at your job. Everything in life has sacrifices, but I'm telling you that if you do want to live a more traditional lifestyle and it really appeals to who you actually are, those sacrifices in the long run are not going to matter as much to you because you're actually going to live the structure of your life in which you envisioned for yourself. Next up, we need to talk about faith. Let's talk about faith, baby. You know what I did there? I replaced a bad word in that song by talking about faith. Sometimes I'm a little bit of an awkward human being, but I still think that I can be feminine regardless. This is a little bit of a controversial topic because every time that I mention faith, people think that I am excluding other people, but what I'm really trying to do is give to you my perspective as a Christian as well as a Catholic woman. So some of this information is going to apply to you and some of this information is not going to apply to you. Let's agree to disagree, but what I can tell you, if you fit into the same categories that I fit into, becoming more traditional is often aligned with growing in your faith because your faith has a lot of traditional principles by which you can live your life. Now, growing up in my early 20s, my late teens, like a lot of people, I was always given the gift of knowing how to pray and how to be in relationship with Jesus. However, during these years, I became more of a lukewarm Christian. I think that as you are a young adult and you are transitioning into the modern world, it's very easy for so many of us to fall that way. But what I noticed in my journey in that portion of my life was that I was seeking validation. I was seeking wisdom primarily in people. To a certain extent, I was kind of idolizing people. I was looking to what they were speaking as truth and adopting it as my own truth. The problem with that is that many of us modern women have good intentions. We might purchase many psychological books or self-help books, or we might go to talks, etc. And none of those things are bad. But when you are living in this kind of limbo where you feel a little bit lost as to what you believe, a lot of these things that these people are presenting to you are going to be very confusing. You cannot show up and look for wisdom in somebody else without understanding your core values behind it. Because even when you are listening to me, I try to tell you that I am an imperfect person, and this essentially is like a self-help channel, but you need to take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt because I am not the ultimate truth in this world. So before you look to the world for outside validation on the decisions that you need to make, I actually advise that you first look into your faith. You actually read the Word of God, and you actually talk to people that are more rooted in your faith. Instead of taking what other people are actually saying about what you should believe, try to actually explore why you should believe what you believe when it comes to faith. Next up, we're going to talk about self-sustainability. I don't know how else to describe this because if I said eco-friendliness, that would probably turn off a lot of you because we do associate eco-friendliness with a certain group of people. But I don't think that you have to adopt a certain political ideology to be a more eco-friendly, self-sustainable person. This is for everybody, and this is especially important for traditional-minded people. Modernly, traditional women can actually practice this by watching what they consume, by kind of like indulging less in the consumerism lifestyle, also by making good decisions about what you are eating. If you can grow a garden, for example, that is an excellent way to be more sustainable. Watch what you purchase. Try to refurbish things or thrift things. You know that I have said countless amount of times on this channel, and it isn't to boast that I don't necessarily have to shop at thrift stores, but I choose to shop at thrift stores because it is just a better way to live. It is just a more sustainable way to live. Also, with things that are happening in media and we see big box stores kind of being behind, I don't know how to describe this without it being like a problem on YouTube, but illegal things that include people under the age of 18, it is kind of good to try to shop locally as much as possible. I know on my vlogs I do go to big chain stores, and unfortunately I have to because there are certain things there that I can only get there. But if I have the option to shop online and on a big chain website, or actually go to a smaller store and purchase something there, I will usually pick the smaller store and go buy it there. And lastly, I want to talk about the importance of family and the rejection of self self-centeredness. Which brings me to the next shirt that I got from Chelsea, which is, I'll go closer, saying, the future is family. Now, the future is family, and you have to understand why it's talking about the cross out of female. This does not mean that you as a modern woman should not be respected for your life goals. This doesn't mean that if you choose not to have a family that you are an invalid woman. What this essentially means is that it is the rejection of self-centeredness in a more narcissistic culture. Building each other up in community and family is not only something that is propelled by Christians, but is a very important principle for anybody to live their life by. Modern culture really tells us that we are of utmost importance and the world revolves around us. We have seen this with the self-care movement, which is such a shame because there is a difference between completely neglecting yourself for your family and rejecting all of that and only focusing on your life dreams. Life should not be lived at both extremes. We need to find a healthy middle road. It has been psychologically proven that a more individualistic society breeds more chaos, and more chaos then causes for people to move away from virtues. Moving away from virtues is actually going to cause that same negative cycle of confusion and is going to cause for you to seek outside validation rather than being content with who you are on the inside. One of the core principles of traditionalism is actually community with other people. So you're going to want to stay connected, and you're going to want to realize that life is not just about yourself. As always, if you have anything to add to the conversation, any tips, any life experiences, I am always open and I'm all ears to hearing positive comments, so leave them down below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in our next video. I hope that this helps you become a more traditional woman as a modern woman in today's society, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.